Everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about some Rick Grimes stuff here because there's been some really interesting stuff that has been coming out over the last, couple of days here. There's been a lot of rumors over the last however long here, and I just want to give some thoughts on all of that because honestly, I've gotten a lot of people wanting me to talk about certain things, and I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily true here. And so yeah, I want to talk about some of the Rick Grimes stuff here because it's really interesting. So yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, but let's actually get into I guess some of the news here. So obviously for the last however long, it's been about over a month now, I'd say, or at least a month, there's been a lot of news regarding, I guess, a Rick Grimes potential new series, or not necessarily a new series, but I guess the potential of that, or Rick Grimes appearing in a spinoff like, say, Dead City or The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, right? So that originally came from at Andy Lincoln News, and a lot of us have been sort of excited about it because the post originally did say, and this was on X, it said Rick Grimes could appear in another spinoff from the Walking Dead universe, and so a lot of us got really excited about that because, I mean, obviously we don't really know necessarily what that means. That could mean maybe a new series, or maybe that means in one of the spinoffs, right? Like Dead City or something like that, right? Maybe it's just a newer spinoff that's going to be coming out that's not necessarily about Rick Grimes, but maybe Rick shows up in that spinoff or something like that, right? It would be the same thing as if he showed up in Fear the Walking Dead or something like that, because he technically did. He was in actually one episode of Fear the Walking Dead, which is kind of crazy. But the last couple of days, there's been a lot of rumors about a Rick series coming out in the next, I guess, couple of years, or next year or something like that. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff about just other spinoffs in general, but I've always just kind of been well, I don't know, honestly, unless it's coming from at Andy Lincoln News on Twitter or X, I don't necessarily really believe it, because that's the one account that I really do trust quite a bit. Or if there's articles written about certain things, right, and it's coming from Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or something like that, right? There's Variety and all of that. Unless they're announcing something, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe all of the rumors right away. I do wonder about it. It is interesting because you see that and you're like, what does that mean, right? But in terms of all of the new Rick Grimes stuff that has been coming out and people have been really, wanting me to talk about it, at Andy Lincoln News actually posted, I guess this was late last night, any information about Andy's work that I know, I will always post firsthand and always with permission. At the moment, we don't know any news about Andy. And so that basically, to me, completely, all those rumors about, a potential new series and all of that are just completely gone now, I think. This news right here confirms that not necessarily there's not a new series in the works, because I feel maybe the account just doesn't know. There could be stuff that Gimple is working on, or there's ideas, or there's this and that, right? But any news specifically about a new series actually happening next year, and there's all of this stuff or whatever, it seems to be no, that's actually not, that's not the case at all here. And so combining this with, I guess what was said before about Rick Grimes potentially appearing in another spinoff, I feel what this means, because when you're looking at the tweet or the post, it says any information about Andy's work that I know, I will always post firsthand and always with permission. At the moment, we don't know any news about Andy. And so I'm wondering what that means just in general in terms of Rick Grimes's, future appearances and other spinoffs. It doesn't necessarily rule out that he could be in another spinoff. It's just that there's no new series that's going to be coming out and all that. So to me, I think that other post, if it means anything, it's going to be that Rick shows up in another series potentially. And again, I don't see it happening in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 3. I just don't see it happening in that show in general, but I do think for sure for, Dead City, that is a possibility, because Dead City is one of those shows that I mean, the timeline thing is a little interesting. You would have to get over certain things there, or explain it away anyways somehow, right? Because they're so far into the future, you'd have to explain, I guess, Rick's story up until that point. I mean, the way they always tell those stories, though, is they never really explain it. Rick is just there, and then, they just won't say certain things. There just won't be a mention of Daryl or anything else. This way, they can actually just sort of, it works in terms of the timeline. And later on, if there's going to be a reunion or something, they'll just sort of fix everything there and mention certain things, right? And have it make sense. I noticed in a lot of moments like that, there's a lot of things that they just don't specifically say, because they don't want to have to remember all that stuff, I feel for later, in case they want to make maybe a creative change to something, or work out the story in a different way. So that it's always sort of very open, which can be very frustrating for sure. That's something that I think we've all sort of experienced. But yeah, it seems in terms of some of the Rick Grimes stuff right now, I would say that, it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything in terms of a new series. And I do trust this account. That's the thing. The account, I feel if there's going to be any sort of announcement of anything like that, this account would post something about that. And I don't know how at Andy Lincoln News knows. Like, it's interesting. You know, I'm really like, to me, I'm like, this has to be Andrew Lincoln himself running the account, because some of the stuff on here, it's just crazy how accurate things are. Like, it's almost like directly from Andrew Lincoln. So it's funny. It's a little hilarious. But yeah, in terms of that whole new series that was supposed to come out in 2026, all of those rumors, that's not happening at all. Like, those are just all rumors. And again, that's been the thing that I've always, like, that's why I didn't really want to talk about that, because I only really follow just like the more credible ones. And at Andy Lincoln News, I do, you know, like, I trust that source a lot, especially when it comes to obviously Andrew Lincoln News or like Rick Grimes News and whatnot. So when I started seeing rumors about all that stuff, I was like, I don't know about that. So I just kind of waited a little bit here. But in terms of Rick Grimes and, like, you know, his possible appearance, I still think that, yeah, his, you know, return in any way in terms of the other spinoffs and all that makes a lot of sense. But I think in terms of Rick appearing in a new series, I guess that part of it is just not really happening right now, which makes sense to me. Like, I think in terms of them filming anything coming out like next year or like anything like that. And that's the thing too, is like, it doesn't mean that they're not working on it, right? Like, if Gimple and Denai Guerrera are like working on some story ideas, or if Andrew Lincoln, you know, sort of knows certain things, but like, it's just very much in the writing process, and they don't really know if there's like a place where they want to go with it yet, but like they have plans for the future. Like, we're not going to know that information right now, right? Like, that stuff is just basically going to be like, okay, so there's some ideas here, this and that, but we'll see where this goes. Like, that's the thing that's going to be really interesting about like this year specifically, is Comic-Con is coming up, and it's been some time since The Ones Who Live has aired, right? And so the fact that Comic-Con is coming up very soon, and you just look at, like, you know, say Andrew Lincoln is doing promotion for like the next show coming out that he was doing called Cold Water, which I will cover on the channel, by the way. I'm really excited about that show because the premise seems really interesting. Like, talking about that show, he's going to be asked about The Walking Dead, and then so he'll have to talk about it, right? Like, this is always going to come up. And the last, like, since The Ones Who Live, really, like, there's only been one moment really where they had to talk about it again, right? And Andrew Lincoln did say, like, you know, Rick's next story, he would like it to be more about like simplistic survival horror, right? Like, he would like to go back in that direction. So he was asked about that once. Like, it was that one time he was asked about it. So when he's promoting these other shows and all that, there's a good chance he's going to be asked about that. And then we're all going to talk about it. And the reason why he's going to be asked about that is because, you know, like, news outlets and, like, you know, like when they're interviewing the actors, like, they want to get as much information as they can so that when they put it out there, you know, a lot of Walking Dead fans are going to see that and then obviously read the article and start talking about it. And then, you know, it's good for them, right? So they're going to be asking these questions. It's just sort of how it always is, right? And so I think that that's just the thing about it. You know, the last however long has been very quiet because I think they all just sort of took a break after The Ones Who Live, and then they went to go do other things, but they're like filming everything, right? I think Denai Guerrera actually just got cast in something recently. So she'll be filming that when she's forced to like promote and everything and talk about it with everybody. I think that's where she'll be asked a bunch of questions, right? And so that's why like Comic-Con is such a big moment. I don't know when Cold Water's coming out. I do want to find that out because that show, just the premise of it sounds really interesting. And I do think that his new series could be actually pretty successful because he is on the show, honestly. And so I'm really excited about that. And then again, he'll be asked, you know, like, when you're going to be in The Walking Dead again, sort of thing, right? So that will come back up then. So I'm yeah, in terms of Rick news and all that, right now I think we're in the same place we were in, like, you know, a couple of months ago, but I still think overall there is more of a push in that direction of it is going to happen. Like, every single day that passes by, we're obviously getting closer and closer to that reunion, because this is the way I see it. You know, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's never going to happen. Like, to me, that is just too insane to never, ever do. Are these actors going to wait like 10 or 20 years when they're much older and then do the whole reunion? No, they're not going to do that. You know, like, when you think of Rick leaving the show, and maybe I'll have to do a video on this, just, you know, entirely literally focused on this idea, why the reunion will happen for sure. Like, that moment, like, Daryl literally was like so upset. He walked away and he thought that Rick died, and he searched for him for years. There's a whole story on that. Like, that is something that, and like, literally Daryl is actually in France now because of that. Like, not necessarily because of that, but like, he ended up in trouble that, you know, got him to France, and Daryl was looking for him before he got into trouble and then ended up on that ship, right? So to me, I think that as more time that goes on, there's going to be a moment here where they're like, all right, where does Daryl's story go now? He needs to see Rick again. Rick, yes, he's reunited with his family, but what about everybody else? What about one story there? that's where I think it just makes sense to actually do that. Like, just thinking about it in terms of that, like, that's where I'm like, okay, this is probably going to happen for sure. Again, it literally does come back to like what Andrew Lincoln said. Like, he literally said what I was saying. Like, there's all these characters out there that would be really cool to like reunite with again, or share the same screen again. I don't remember exactly how he described it, but he basically said that. But he said, I don't know when. So to me, I think that there is a time limit. Obviously, I think the Daryl Dixon show is going to be going for the next couple of years here. We'll have a couple more seasons of this. After that, I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go. I think that's what's going to be very, very interesting, right? Going past 2030 and all that, like what's going to be the new series? Like, there's been rumors of a new series in general, of something happening this summer, and that's actual credible stuff from at TWU filming on Twitter or X, or there was at least something posted by the account actually about the whole situation. So here, I'll actually go back to that because I do want to get that post right here. But yeah, the post was about a response actually to the whole thing of like there's no active Aaron and Gabriel spinoff, right? And then I think somebody posted here something to do about, is there anything beyond like the two shows we have now, like Dead City and Daryl Dixon? Like, is there any other shows besides that? And the account posted here, it's very promising. I know of a potentially Walking Dead related production coming up this summer on the East Coast. And yeah, and then it says, I will keep everyone updated on everything I hear. So that to me sounds like there's going to be a new spinoff or something. Like maybe it's still related to Dead City. Like they're going to start filming again right away for season 3, I guess, right? It would have to be season 3. So something I feel like is happening right away. I just don't know exactly what, but it looks like it's happening this summer, which would relate with like when Dead City, I guess, would come out, right? Like they would film in the summer, like June, July or something like that. And then film until, I don't know, I guess later that year. And then the show obviously would come out, I guess, around the same time, like April, May or something like that. So yeah, I feel like there potentially could be a new series coming out here. Dead City, a lot of the news is going to start picking up here right away, and so I'm excited about that. In terms of stuff that I will cover on the channel here, I'm actually going to be doing Daredevil videos. So that show is going to be coming out, I believe it's like early March, right? So I will be covering that show a lot. Like every single episode, I'll do reviews, I'll do breakdowns, I'll do trailer videos for like the next week's episode, if they actually do like, post trailers and whatnot for that. I'll talk about certain moments. John Bernthal is going to be on that show, and I haven't seen anything with John Bernthal for a while, and this is a really hyped up show right now, so I will be covering this, as well as The Last of Us. I've been covering it so much, so things are about to be more alive here. Things have definitely been quiet for some time, so I'm going to focus a lot more on this and actually, put out a lot of really, really great content here, do more movie reviews, like just normal movie reviews on like, again, I've been wanting to talk about Nosferatu. There's a bunch of other stuff that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I just want to set up the proper background because I film everything, like my general office where I do stuff is, in my bedroom. And so I don't want to have that as my, background or anything like that. Like, yeah, I can fix my bed and everything, but still, I want it to be a cool set, and I want it to look cool. Like that's just sort of, that's the point of like when you're making videos, it's fun, it's more fun to watch kind of thing. So I got to figure out something in terms of that and actually film something really, really cool here. But I do have an idea with that. I actually have something kind of worked out and I have a lot more time now. So I think I'll be able to get that done. So yeah, a lot of stuff here. Honestly, we're going to have Daredevil here in the next couple of weeks. And then a month later is The Last of Us. So Daredevil will literally go straight into The Last of Us. We'll be watching both of those shows. And all those shows will go straight into The Walking Dead Dead City, or at least The Last of Us will for sure. Or it should anyways. And so yeah, I'm excited. I really cannot wait, and I want them to announce a release date at this point here. Honestly, I just want to know when the show's coming out. A lot of people want to know, and I think that's the thing about it all, is you can't really feel that excited about this when you don't know the exact release date. I think even if they said it was like, November or December, I know it's not going to be that at all. It's probably going to be April or May, but just say it's like, it's so far away. Just to have a date in mind, I can just get excited for that. I can be like, all right, cool. I know when to get excited about this show. And, I'll know it's obviously going to be the end of April or most likely early May. So once they announce the release date for that, then people can be like, okay, so now I'm excited because now we just have to wait. Like May, as of right now, if it's early May, that's 3 months away, which is like, technically it's a little under that. So it'd be closer to 2.5 months away. But yeah, anyways, that's sort of what the next however many months are going to be like for the channel here. I'm going to be covering all of those shows quite a bit here, and then obviously any sort of Walking Dead news or updates or anything like that I will cover as well. So yeah, I'm really excited, but definitely post our thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.